All right, Madam Chair, we're live.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody, to our quarterly PASHE board meeting in October, this beautiful day. And let's begin by me asking Toya to take roll call.
Yes, Madam Chair. Senator David Argyle or his designee, Cindy Urban.
Present.
Governor Robert Bogle. Representative Tim Briggs. Governor Quentin Bullock.
Present.
Governor Richard Caruso.
Present.
Governor Brandon Dons. Governor William Gindelsberger.
Present.
Governor Abigail Hancox.
Present.
Akbar Hossain or Katie Merritt, the Governor Shapiro's designee.
Here.
Vice Chair David Mazer. Governor Marian Moskowitz. Governor Mark Handy Fainor.
Present.
Representative Brad Roy. Governor Ali Sina Sharifi.
Here.
Dr. Kate Shaw.
Here.
Senator Judith Schwenk.
Here.
Chair Cynthia Shapiro.
Present.
Vice Chair Samuel Smith.
Here.
Governor Robert Trainum.
Present.
Secretary Neil Weaver.
Here.
Dr. Tina Shirelli Helminiak. We have a quorum. This completes the roll.
Thank you very much. May I ask everyone in the room to please rise, if you can, to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you very much. Well, again, welcome everyone here in Harrisburg and those joining us online to our Board of Governors quarterly meeting. As we quickly approach midterm in our university campuses, which is hard for me to believe, we hope everybody's fall semester has gotten off to a really wonderful start. It's a very busy time during our academic year, and especially so as we prepare for local, state, and national elections. Our universities are wonderful places where people from every walk of life come together to learn from each other and share their opinions, sometimes differing viewpoints, but always with respect and interest. And that's what makes our state universities such remarkable places. At PASHE universities, students not only earn valuable, meaningful degrees and credentials that will launch or enhance their careers, but they do so while they are growing as people and as leaders, learning from faculty and staff who are dedicated to their success. And that dedication, coupled with flat tuition, no increase in tuition since 2018, is why for the first time in more than a decade, our downward slide in overall enrollment has essentially leveled out. So just a couple numbers to throw out. On average, our system had been losing nearly 3,000 students every year in the past decade. This fall, our universities reduced that number to about 180. That is really impressive and really very welcome news. What's more, our graduate enrollment is up, our student transfer enrollment is up, and we fully expect that student retention is going to be up too, and we'll know more once those data are finalized. While these numbers are really exciting, what is most important is that they represent real people whose lives will be forever changed by their experience at a PASHE university. So I really want to personally thank the faculty, the staff, and the university leaders who work so hard every single day to serve our students and to find new and innovative ways to fulfill our mission. You are why students choose PASHE universities, and you all are why we are able to do what we do. So again, thank you very much. I also want to note that this is the last board meeting and almost the last day for our current Chancellor, Dan Greenstein. And there will be more about that as we proceed in this meeting. Now, let me turn on our agenda to public comment. Randy, can I ask you to facilitate that?
Sure. As usual, we have public comment opportunity for individuals of the public to either hear in person or via phone, and we'll take the ones on phone first. We'll start with Dr. Heather Garrison. Give her a moment to come off of mute. And Dr. Garrison, you'll have 3 minutes to offer your remarks.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Dr. Heather Garrison, formerly of East Stroudsburg University. I'm here today because I am a victim of PASH's systemic abuse of people with systemic abuse of people with disabilities and disregard for the law and for human decency. I was fired on my 24-year anniversary from my position as an associate professor solely because I have a disability. I was fired because of PASH's eagerness to abuse people with disabilities. When in-person classes began to open after the pandemic shutdown, I had the accommodation of remote teaching and successfully performed all of my responsibilities. And then it was rescinded, and administration conspired to discriminate and retaliate against me by forcing me onto FMLA without any medical documentation, and implemented a campaign where they ordered me to become non-disabled by the leave's expiration or get fired. They denied 3 requests from my primary care doctor for continued remote accommodations over 2 years, using illegal excuses like you'll hear from others, like, we don't have a remote policy. In-person teaching is an essential responsibility of your job, and you can't come back at all unless it's full-time and full duty. Get non-disabled or get out. Further compounding this discrimination is I personally was not allowed to do what multiple other non-disabled professors in my own college were allowed to do, like have fully online teaching and hold online office hours. And for a university whose homepage states we are a university without walls, they were literally only concerned with my ability to sit within their walls. And when I complained, they retaliated in multiple ways, like demanding in-person IMEs, independent medical evaluations, threats of disciplinary action, lapsing my health insurance. And then when I requested an IME, that request was ignored for 2 months. But my health insurance was then canceled with 9 days of notice. And when HR finally did schedule the IME, 2 months after my request and 2 weeks before my FMLA expired, their provider also definitively stated that remote teaching accommodations were absolutely medically necessary. And then ESU denied their own IME on the day before they fired me, using the same illegal excuses. Now, sadly, I do not have time to share the absolutely devastating and permanent impact of these decisions on my life, my health, my family, and more. And as the Chancellor prepares to retire, I have had all of my retirement benefits stolen from me after 24 years of faithful service. And in closing, because I only have 3 minutes, I wasn't just a professor at ESU. I was an alumna 3 times. I was born at the hospital next to ESU. I was a part of the community. I was honored to serve Monroe County, my home community, my native state of Pennsylvania, by creating outstanding special education teachers who in turn enriched the Commonwealth for generations because of my impact. But now
Dr.
I am
Garrison,
appalled
time has expired, and we have a number of other speakers.
by how
Thank you for your time.
he is treated.
All right, next we have Dr. Miller. Give him a moment to come off of mute. *6 if you need to come off of mute, Dr. Miller. *6 to unmute. Dr. Miller, we'll come back to you. Next, we'll go to Dr. Hauser. It's *6 to unmute Dr. Hauser.
Hello?
Yes, we hear
Can you
you.
hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. My name is Rose Hauser. I am in my 27th year as a faculty member at SRU. Throughout my time at Slippery Rock, I have had good reviews by students and faculty. In the summer of 2020, my doctor informed me that I needed an aortic valve replacement. This would be my second replacement. In August 2020, I went to Cleveland Clinic for surgery, which included a new valve and a repair of an aortic aneurysm. The fall semester was starting the next week, and I informed my dean I would take one day off and would teach, as we were completely online at that time. I made this choice so that there would be continuity and no interruptions for my students, who are always very important to me. It was very difficult for me, but I got through it. My recovery did not go well, and I had several problems and was ultimately diagnosed with heart failure. I have ADA paperwork from both Cleveland Clinic and my local doctor stating that I should teach online. Please note that Cleveland Clinic has been named the #1 heart hospital in the nation for over 20 years. The clinic and my doctor are both renowned. I continued to teach online through the spring of 22, as I was permitted to do so. I had a research sabbatical fall 22 to spring 23. I provided my ADA from both doctors for fall 23 when I returned and was refused accommodations. There was a faculty opening to place students in schools, which could be done from home, and I took that 6-credit position, which I had fall 23 to spring 24, at which time this placement position was moved to non-faculty. In fall 23, I had a full schedule with 2 grad classes and making student placements, so I was able to work at home. In spring 24, I had to take sick days for one course to have a full schedule. This fall, I was giving 3 grad classes, which are online, but was told it just worked out this way and it's not an accommodation. In spring 25, I have 1 grad course on my schedule and will have to take sick days for 3 classes that I cannot teach because they are face-to-face. The university will have to pay temps as a result. I remain an active member of the department, participating on committees and advising through Zoom. Across the university, various courses are offered online, but I have denied this option, while at the same time, our dean speaks of incorporating more technology, such as supervision of student teachers, for which we have the technology to do remotely. I have had courses and a master's program to teach online. Every semester, I am refused an accommodation. I will ultimately either be forced out due to a lack of sick days, or I will be forced to pursue legal procedures. PASHE is violating their legal requirements to the American Disability Act, and I respectfully request that you remedy this situation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we'll try Dr. Miller again. *6 to unmute. No luck there. Oh, there you go. I see you.
Hello? Hello?
Yes,
Can I speak now?
We do hear you. 3 minutes.
Can I speak now?
Yes, please.
My name is Dr. Timothy Miller. I teach English. I've taught English at Millersville for 39 years. I just retired. In the fall of 2023, I had a hip replacement at Hershey Medical. The first replacement did not work well, and they had to perform another one that June in the summer. The doctors told me I would have to use a wheelchair for at least 3 months. Once the fall semester started, my neighbor took me to my office and then to and from my classroom for more than 2 months in the fall 2023 semester. The dean said that no one, faculty, workers in Macomsey Hall, the building I taught in, or students, could help me get to and from class in the wheelchair. No one was allowed to help me do anything. By the 3rd month of class that semester, students helped me get to and from class in spite of what the dean said. Students said they wanted to help me, and they did not care what the dean said or did. I thus finished the fall 2023 semester. In the spring semester of 2024, I did not need a wheelchair anymore, but I had to use a cane. There were times when I needed students to help me carry books, notes, and handouts. The handouts were the work of a lifetime. The students told me that they did not care what the dean said about the help they gave me. She did not want the students to help me. That is my situation. I just retired last semester, August 9th. And part I did because of the way I was treated.
And we'll now go to Dr. Carbo.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Thank you for your comments.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Carbo.
Oh, all right. Thank you. My name is Jerry Carbo. I'm a professor in the Grove College of Business at Shippensburg University. I have my PhD in Industrial and Labor Relations from Cornell. I have my JD from Penn State University, and I am a practicing attorney in Pennsylvania. I've managed the ADA and other employment policies for 2 different Fortune 50 companies. I've trained thousands of students and workers, hundreds of managers and attorneys, and hundreds of union leaders on the ADA and other employment laws and policies. I am compelled to speak here today. First, to oppose what are unethical, unlawful, and strategically unsound ADA practices here at PASHI. Second, for the mutual aid and protection of my brothers and SCUF and all other PASHI employees. And third, to protect the system itself from making strategically harmful and unsound decisions. Aristotle once wrote, "Man is most terrible of all when he lives without law and without justice." In my nearly 3 decades of experience studying the world of work, when organizations look to skirt laws like the ADA, they also are at their most terrible. When I train managers on the ADA, I emphasize there's no practical or strategic reason to fear the law. The vast majority of accommodations cost employers nothing, and the rest cost much less than even their direct economic benefit. When managed correctly, an accommodation process can increase morale, satisfaction, commitment, improve working conditions and work processes, increase efficiency and goodwill. Denying accommodations leads to decreased morale, higher absenteeism, turnover, litigation, and a waste of organizational resources. Effective organizations do not start from the position of hoping to deny accommodations. From what I have seen, PASHI Legal, with the help of HR and social equity departments on the college and university campuses, very clearly started from the position of what can be done to deny accommodations. They have cited to irrelevant CFRs, required employees jump through unlawful hoops, categorically denied accommodations, and denied accommodations without even engaging in an undue hardship analysis. My own family suffered because of these practices by PASHI when my wife was fired from her employment at Shippensburg University Head Start on Christmas Eve 2020. She was fired because she decided to listen to her doctor and not put her life at extreme risk due to her disability by working in an unsafe environment at the height of the pandemic. She should never have had to face that decision, and neither should anyone else. PASHI's unlawful, unethical, and strategically unsound approach to the ADA accommodation process has led to decreased morale, higher turnover and absenteeism, litigation, and conflict on our campuses, and there is no reason for this. I hope that you will take a new look at these processes, that you will see the clear legal and economic benefit of changing your approach to the ADA accommodations, and that you will do so expeditiously so that none of my brothers and sisters in APSCA, no other employee in the system, is faced with a very daunting decision of either putting their life at unnecessary risk or losing their job. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carbo. Now we'll move to anyone in the room who'd like to offer public comment. You can approach the podium, state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. And if you need more time than 3 minutes, we also welcome you to send an email to board@pashi.edu. Yeah, please.
I will be within the 3 minutes once I get established here. Right? First, welcome. Today is, or this month is National Disability Employment Month, ironically. My name is Dr. Steve Orris. I'm a professor, an associate professor of psychology at Kutztown University, having been employed there for over 20 years. I had a heart attack in 2014, followed by a rare allergic reaction to a blood thinner. That led to a severely compromised heart, which I lived with until 2021. And in February 24th of 2021, I had to receive a heart transplant. A mere 5 months after the transplant, after going through cardiac rehab, I approached Kutztown University, excited to return to work. I fully expected to have a joyful welcome back. We're glad you're doing well. Instead, I was immediately told there's no provision for me to return to work, and my accommodation request was denied. You see, as a heart transplant patient, I'm under lifelong immune suppressants. And my doctors recommended, given COVID and other infectious disease conditions, that I can work remotely. Challenging that denial with the help of the Disability Rights Pennsylvania did no good. I thought the administration would recognize their actions were illegal, but instead, after they received a note from DRP, my health insurance and job were threatened. After filing a lawsuit in federal court and receiving a temporary restraining order on December 2021, I honestly thought now administration would realize their mistake, admit it, and work to correct the wrong. Yeah, I was naive. My lawsuit continued, and on July 25th, 2023, and again on January 8th, 2024, the federal courts ruled outlining 6 counts of disability discrimination against Kutztown University. Given the time constraints, I'll only mention a few of them, as they are particularly relevant to the actions still being undertaken to deny accommodations to my fellow brothers and sisters in ABSCO. 1, with regard to count 1, failure to accommodate. The court finds that the university did not make any effort, let alone a good faith effort, to accommodate plaintiff, and that Professor Orris could have easily been accommodated without causing an undue burden on the university. With regard to count 2, facial invalidity of defendant's full duty requirement. The uncontradicted testimony reveals that the defendants formulated for the first time just such a policy during the summer of 2021 to deny any request made by a faculty or staff member for a remote accommodation. And regarding count 5, disparate impact, and count 6, retaliation and interference, the university further meddled with the plaintiff's career when it defined a full-time, full-duty release as requiring all teaching and conducting office hours to be in person, despite the fact that the university had never before applied a full-time, full-duty requirement or even defended or defined the term. In closing, if this type of discrimination was not explicitly proposed by the chancellor's office, it was at least implicitly condoned. And it is time for it to stop. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else would like to speak, just approach the podium. State your name for the record.
Some a broad note from the perspective of the terrified of retribution student perspective. Received my undergraduate degree from Millersville in 2020 and my graduate degree in 2023. Asking for accommodations can be a humbling and too often humiliating experience, met with harsh, followed by even harsher levels of invasive institutional policy gatekeeping that feels designed to deny rather than to quite literally accommodate a need, to accommodate a person in need. The process seems to be aimed at eliminating malingerers or to make students with a need give up or to go away. The antiquated process also makes the approval of accommodations feel like charity as opposed to adhering to the ADA laws and policies in place, our rights by law. You are not doing us a favor. Additionally, as a disabled student progressing through the matriculation of higher education, whereas learning and maturing and earning high marks and ultimately a degree is the work we've signed up for, the entire infrastructure of support feels like it is diminishing with each level of success, and in turn, navigating those wrongs exceedingly becomes the work. For me, this is certainly the case to the point that I find myself in graduate school during a pandemic, ostensibly winging it and relying almost entirely on the whims of professors left to gauge for themselves how significantly or not they thought I was disabled. This inconsistent arbitration and sometimes pleading on my part was happening simultaneously. As I was fighting for my academic life and my emails with learning services, being asked to disclose more and more details about my illnesses, with them finding new and more excruciating ways of them saying they needed more information. Signed documentation from my primary care physician was somehow apparently not enough. As someone that doesn't quote unquote look significantly disabled, this was all beyond demoralizing and frankly blocked me out of having a richer graduate school experience that, not for nothing, I did in fact pay for. I did end up being successful in the long run, in large part due to the accommodations I received and the aforementioned winging it, despite the processes seemingly engineered to appease systems and policies as opposed to human beings. And of course, the winging it, when the winging it erred on the side of compassion. Flexibility is great, but winging it should never be the policy. Lastly, a point that gets lost in discussions about disabled folks and that institutions regularly dismiss is this: the institutions are missing out on disabled people and our humanity and our contribution as much, if not more, than the disabled people are missing out on them. Thank you.
Thank you. State your name for the record, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Jill Craven. I'm a professor at Millersville University and also a member of Faculty Council. In honor of Chancellor Dan's commitment to social justice, we ask that the board consider bringing justice to those in PASHE who have a disability. The PASHE DEI mission states that the system is committed to ensuring accessibility and championing the success of all members of its community, regardless of one's identity. That commitment has not been fulfilled or even focused on for people who identify as disabled. I've provided each board member copies of information pertinent to the discussion of disability at PASHE. A little over 7% of the undergraduates in PASHE have identified themselves to us as disabled, but we have no figures on the number of faculty. What we do know is that faculty with disabilities aren't treated well. In fact, PASHE violates the ADA, and we can say that because faculty have won lawsuits proving it. However, it's a sad day when faculty have to go to the extreme of suing the system when all they are asking for is the rights guaranteed by the ADA, which, by the way, was passed 34 years ago. Significantly, PASHE has no oversight of ADA compliance at the state level. DEI initiatives explicitly focus on race and ethnicity. Many don't mention sexuality, gender, or gender identity, let alone disability. When your vision is to be a national leader in inclusion, your stated framework of DEI has to up its game from the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to the hopeful and broad-minded inclusivity of our students in 2024. But back to why state oversight on disability is needed. Reasonable accommodation requests, including those for veterans and students, were ignored or denied. When I asked the Office of the Chancellor for names of ADA coordinators and transition plans for the state universities, all required by the ADA, they did not have these. I was told by the state DEI office that all state universities were compliant with the ADA. That was patently false. My own university lacked an ADA coordinator and still lacks a transition plan and signage, for example. My president was told by state legal that he needed to get an ADA coordinator. So after 6 months, he assigned a facilities guy who not only had no training in the ADA, he didn't even know there was training. And guess what? According to PASHE, state HR has zero policies related to disability outside the union contract. Faculty are told we must comply with these illegal policies, yet they are unwilling to share them, even with an FOI request, which is in your documentation. Bottom line, your employees are all required to comply with the ADA, but like Bartleby, some would prefer not to. thus the lawsuits listed in your information. But most students don't have that legal recourse. We put concrete ideas for making positive transitions at your campuses in the handout, which I specifically asked to be included in the minutes. We ask you to revise the DEI strategic priorities and implementation plans to address the issues we raise, and we ask you to oversee compliance at the universities. Thank you for your time and your future attention to this decades-old federal law at your campuses.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. Any other commenters? Public comment? All right, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you very much. I usually don't comment after public comment, but I do want to hear for just a moment, excuse me for my voice this morning. I just want to say that on behalf of the board, we very much appreciate members of our community, our faculty and staff and others in coming forth and giving us this information and sharing your perspectives. It is not going unheard. I want to assure you of that. So with that, no more to be said at this point. But I hope you heard my words. Thank you. Randy, are we ready to go on to union leader remarks? Okay. We're next going to hear from our colleagues who lead our statewide unions. May I call on Rita Miller first from SCUPA?
Good morning. I just sent an email for asking for a little additional time so that I can present all of SCUPA's remarks. Good morning. I am Rita Miller, Vice President of the SCUPA Bargaining Unit. I'm here in place of SCUPA President Dr. Todd Spalding. He is currently on sick leave, doing well, and anticipated to return in the next few weeks. The State College and University Professional Association, SCUPA, in concert with the Pennsylvania State Education Association, PSEA, and the National Education Association, NEA, extends warm greetings to the PASHI Board of Governors, the Office of the Chancellor, and to all new and returning students, staff, faculty, and administration at the 10 universities and 14 campuses in the PASHI system as we approach the midterm point of the fall semester. We believe this year will continue to present opportunities for renewal, challenge, and change as our nation moves towards an impending presidential election, and we consider the impact on public higher education and the future of our students and their families. It is a time to motivate our young population, who will be the leaders of tomorrow, to stand up, find their voice, and be heard. Their journey towards being an effective leader of tomorrow begins with their engagement and interaction as campus citizens today, and our ability to motivate and empower them to engage, achieve, and succeed. We start the ripple today that will become the wave tomorrow. SCUPA is proud to continue to support, nurture, and encourage the academic and personal growth and development of our students. We believe a collaborative effort of persistence and determination to succeed by students, dedication and commitment to PASHI and university values, vision, mission, and strategic directions by staff, faculty, and administration, and a balanced blend of respect and cooperation from all will be the key elements for achieving and sustaining student success and prosperity for the future of our university communities and beyond. We remain dedicated to that noble effort. Over the summer of 2024, the PASHI system tasked 4 of the PASHI universities, Commonwealth in the North Central region, Millersville in the Eastern region, Shippensburg in the South Central region, and Slippery Rock in the Western region, with a special regional outreach to increase the number of new and returning students and families to complete the FAFSA. This was in the wake of a delayed rollout of the new FAFSA in late December 2023 and a troubling 12% decrease in FAFSA completion in comparison to the prior year. The work of this initiative fell on the employees in the financial aid offices of the 4 universities. It's important to note that the essential mass of those employees, the financial aid counselors, are professional staff of the Scuba Bargaining Unit, and they were the boots on the ground making that outreach a reality. As a snapshot of the work on this initiative, and so that you can better appreciate the level of dedication and commitment of our Scuba Bargaining Unit employees, I offer you some statistics from the Millersville University Eastern Region outreach effort. 799 FAFSA applications submitted between May 6, 2024 and the start of the fall semester. 889 FAFSA applications completed between May 6, 2024 and the start of the fall semester. And the number of new and additional financial aid counselors and advisors deployed to assist with this project, 0. SCUPA wishes the PASHI system a happy, safe, and prosperous academic year. To Chancellor Dr. Daniel Greenstein, we offer our sincere wishes for good luck as you move into your next endeavor. To Dr. Chris Fiorentino, we welcome you and look forward to a successful, robust collaboration as you bring the value of your 40+ years in Pennsylvania higher education and continue the work of the Office of the Chancellor. Thank you for the opportunity to address this meeting of the PASHI Board of Governors.
Thank you very much. Let me now call on Mike Sukol from AFSCME.
Morning. I'm Mike Sukol. I'm the National Organizing Director and Field Service Director for the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. And I'm currently serving as the administrator of AFSCME Council 13 here in Pennsylvania. I'd like to thank the board and Chairperson Shapiro for your time today and your efforts to uphold the mission of your institutions. I grew up in Brownsville, PA. Brownsville is a small community on a bend in the Monongahela River, right across the river from Penn West, California. I came back to Pennsylvania to lead Council 13 earlier this year. I've been working with members, staff, and leaders to address the many challenges that these workers and their families are facing throughout the Commonwealth, and to implement changes to our union that will make sure that we remain strong and the most effective worker organization possible into the future. Growing up in Brownsville, California University had a significant impact on me and my community. A vast majority of the teachers in the Brownsville Area School District fostered their calling to teach while attending California University. These educators played a role in determining how we approach the world and taught us how to be open-minded and explore, adapt to, and even pursue change in our communities and in ourselves. In fact, I first computed during a field trip to Cal in the early 80s. I still remember punching the letters of my first name into a card, slipping it into the slot, and watching a banner with my name printed and come out of the other side. It was like magic. As for children of university employees, their parents' jobs put food on the table and brought peace of mind to their homes. In other words, these jobs nourished their bodies and minds. It was lost on me as a child, but today I can see that these universities are often the heartbeat and nerve center of their communities, especially poor communities like mine. I've tried to take you back there because to me, the system of higher education exemplified what is today still the mission of PASHI institutions. I feel such a connection to California that when I moved back east in 2008, I joined AFSCME Local 2322 at the university and have been a member ever since. Just as AFSCME members are working on changes to ensure a bright future, Penn West is an institution that has embraced and adapted to changing times going all the way back to its inception in 1874. When I first came here, I traveled across the Commonwealth hosting town hall meetings and listened closely to the voices of hundreds of workers. I've also had several sessions with PASSHE University employees and sat through a statewide labor management meeting. I have a responsibility to tell you today that what I heard is that we can do much, much better. The employees that we represent and you employ are extremely frustrated. I know that my predecessor recently came to this board with a list of grievances and shared the specifics of why PASSHE employees feel like second-class citizens. We understand that the system is struggling, the change is necessary, but when simple things like 2 hours of paid administrative leave to exercise employees' basic right to vote is granted by the governor and other Commonwealth independent agencies, but denied to PASSHE employees, the wrong message is sent regarding their value. I won't repeat that list of grievances. You are aware, and you can review that testimony at your own initiative. But I urge you to look at today as an opportunity to embrace and enact a new philosophy. We stand ready to partner with you, but we will only be successful if you proactively take measures to demonstrate to employees that we are all prepared to change for the good of students and our community. Your first opportunity will be the appointment of Chancellor Greenstein's replacement. I do not know Mr. Greenstein, and I can only assume that every decision he made was in his judgment in the best interest of struggling institutions. I respect him for that. Our hope is that your next appointment sends a message, a strong message, that every manager, every supervisor, and every institutional leader will start their day by listening to the people who take care of the students, the buildings, the grounds, and those kids on that next field trip. Specifically, we ask that you consider the following. Governor Shapiro sent a clear message that a stronger education system can be built across Pennsylvania with direct frontline worker input when he appointed AFSCME Local 763 President Bobby Zipour to the State Board of Higher Education. As a union leader and a library assistant at Indiana University, Bobby brings a unique and incredibly important perspective to that body. We ask that you follow Governor Shapiro's lead and advocate for union representation on this board by supporting House Bill 1168, which, by the way, was passed in a bipartisan fashion. Whomever you support as the next chancellor should have a track record that demonstrates a deep understanding of commitment to a cooperative labor management approach as a primary function of workforce management. We stand ready to work with the search committee to find the best path forward together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me now call on Dr. Ken Mash from APSCUF.
Of the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties. I'd like to begin, I should say, Chair Shapiro, Chancellor Greenstein, presidents, governors, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'd like to start by recognizing my colleagues who spoke to you today, and to let you know too that this was completely organic in the sense that this was not in any way orchestrated by ABSCUF that our folks would come to you today. And I think that says something both about the individuals demonstrating their efficacy and standing up for themselves. And I think it also says something about the fact that there is a building critical mass around the issue of disabilities and the treatment of employees and particularly faculty when it comes to the ADA. In fact, one might ask, is it really necessary, or at an academic institution, should it be the case that one has to even rely on the law to get fair treatment? Shouldn't fair treatment be the emblem of this state system in any academic institution? And so, you know, we spoke about this issue at contract negotiations. We tried to achieve an impartial panel that would review claims that were being made, and we were shut down. And we were shut down, it's my suspicion, I don't have the facts, I don't know what goes on the other side during contract negotiations, but it's my suspicion that it was shut down by our university presidents. And our only conclusion from that is that our university presidents, perhaps on this issue at least, have too thin of a skin to submit themselves to outside review to see whether their decisions are appropriate. And again, when it comes to having a system and treating people fairly and having policies that seek to respect diversity, we need to live that. We can't just put it on pieces of paper. We need to act the way that we expect others should be acting in this society. So that being said, that was not what I had come here to say. But again, I am in awe of my colleagues on a regular basis and their willingness to put themselves out there and say what they think is right. And they should be supported when they go ahead and do so. And the same thing goes for my other union colleagues when they speak up and they talk about what is proper. But I did want to really talk about, to say, where do I begin, Dan? Dan, and I'm going to call you Dan from now on, because now you're just a civilian. And that is an improvement. But I want to be genuine. And the one thing I could say about my interaction and ABSCUF's relationship with the chancellor has been one where we have never been disingenuous with one another. That is, I'm not going to stand up here and say everything is great, that there is perfection, that during your tenure, everything was smooth. It most certainly was not smooth. There have been very, very contentious times. Some points where we have vehemently disagree with you. Dan can tell you stories about some of those vehement disagreements. There were times when our colleagues have been offended by positions that have been taken and words that have been said. And there have been times when some of the decisions were and still are baffling to our colleagues. And I'm saying that up front so that I could say what I'm going to say in the most honest way that I can. It allows me in good conscience to say that the college-bound students of Pennsylvania are better off because you've been here, because of your focus on affordability, which has been straightforward and constant and zealous, I would even say. The citizens of the Commonwealth are better off because of your equal zeal for transparency also, and for putting information out there and not acting in a way where it seemed as if you were trying to hide information or data. And that was an issue before you were here. The faculty are better off because you were willing to come to negotiations. And I believe both you and the chair set that tone after some rough times in 2016, where both of you came to negotiations, and Dan continued that after that first negotiation. I think it's actually a model that more chancellors across the country should follow to be there, because I think even Dan would say that you learn things when you are at negotiations and you hear things that you wouldn't have otherwise have known, and that you can lead your system better because you are aware of those things. The truth is that while you may not have always listened to the degree that we would have hoped, that even after things got tense, even after things got heated, ultimately we moved on. And your team, not just you, but because of your modeling, your team continued to show up and they, again, listen to what we have to say. The faculty have also benefited from the respect you have shown my coach and faculty colleagues when appearing before the legislature. You never had an unkind word to utter in front of the legislature. And it did not go without notice that you even, on several occasions, refused to be baited, where there were those trying to get you to say negative things. But you held your ground, and given some of our past experience, that was respected by my colleagues. Further, for the first time in my leadership tenure, at least ABSCUF and the system worked on the same side often, and we collaborated to advocate for our great system in the General Assembly. And I think the results of that collaboration are tangible. It has meant more money for the state system. And again, I think it's behavior that you model, not just for this system, but for the country. In all, this system is better for the fact that you came to Harrisburg. And I might add that personally, you've been a very good thought partner. I'm still not sure that I like that term, but consider it an homage. I certainly personally respect the work that you have done here. Dr. Fiorentino, you have some big shoes to fill. Things are very far from perfect. But I know that our members have already, because of your experience, a great deal of respect for you. So you start off already with some serious capital. And I'm not just talking about our colleagues at Westchester. The work you have done has been noticed across the system. So we look forward to working with you, and I wish you good luck in that. And Dan, good luck in the future with your next position, and all respect.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mash. Appreciate those words. All right. Next, we will hear from PAC President, Dr. Rich Furix, on behalf of our trustees.
Thank you, Madam Chair, or should I say, Madam Chairs. Your role as the chair of the State Board of Higher Education. Congratulations, I guess. We look forward to seeing your reports. Yesterday was a great day for PAC as we hosted our student trustees in a day at the Capitol. We believe that students, especially our student trustees, are our future, and we should assist them as they prepare for this future. Our student trustees had the opportunity to meet with key legislators, be recognized at a Senate session, and take part in a tour of the Capitol before returning to the system meeting to meet with the chancellor and interim chancellor and the chancellor search consultant. They had an outstanding day. As we bid farewell to Chancellor Greenstein, on behalf of PAC, I would like to say thank you. Thank you for your passion and dedication as you led the system into its next phase of sustainability. And thank you for helping us get the funding we needed to keep our universities in a positive position financially. And finally, thank you for your vision as you sought new ways to keep the system accessible and affordable. Good luck as you pursue your next adventure. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, we're now going to move to our consent agenda. We're going to consider the action items listed in the consent agenda, which include the following: meeting minutes, student board member reappointment, committee assignments, and a property disposition at Penn West. Can I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed? Second? Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Okay, none from the
No hands.
Zoom land. Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you very much. The motion carries. Next, we're going to talk about system priorities, and I am going to ask Dan to present those system priorities for this year.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Cindy. Now that Ken's introduced a great deal of informality.
The new informality.
And I figure, what are you gonna do, fire me? We did already earlier.
It's not too late, Dan.
No, I appreciate that. So I just wanted to sort of contextualize the priorities that I'm gonna present briefly in a couple ways, and just to remind us of our mission. I won't take you through the slide deck that we've had for years, and I'm sorry about that, Sam. But just to remind us that our work is grounded in the needs of our owners, the state. And they are profound and they are growing, and they focus on a adult population which has more people in it that have accomplished some degree of post-secondary education. And that's not just about workforce development, although we do spend a lot of time talking about workforce development. It's because post-secondary education tracks directly with the health and well-being of the country. But to remind you of the data point that I so love, and you'll get an opportunity to hear about it again, 60% of today's jobs in Pennsylvania require somebody in them with some kind of post-secondary education, which only 51% of. And so we threw ourselves in our redesign at solving that problem, because we are the state-owned universities, and that is the most urgent need of our owners. And our redesign had two goals. One is to stabilize the system financially, because you can't do well unless you're operating, in a stable manner. But the longer range goal was to really tilt ourselves at that significant challenge. And that, of course, means getting more people into and through a post-secondary education. And here's the interesting thing, and it's well known: the size of the high school leaving population, which is the traditional, student body that we have served so well and for so long, for 100 and I think Cheney is our oldest university and is 188 years old. And Aaron, 87? Okay, I gave you another year just for good behavior or whatever. But 187 years old, and then I think our youngest is 130 something, and so but that population is shrinking. And so if we just continue to focus on the population and not the mission, and the mission is education for all and the social mobility and workforce development of all, we cannot serve the state's needs. So we have to open the aperture. We have to obviously continue to serve our traditional population well, and to serve them better, to improve our outcomes for those students, but also to open the aperture, open our doors wider so that we can serve others. And those have been our two goals: financial stabilization on the one hand, and getting more people into and through a post-secondary education so they can have the credential that leads them to a sustaining career and to contributions to their community and to the common. So a few years ago, we sort of bucketed, I guess I can say, we sort of just took those basic goals and we identified 5 priorities that we were going to pursue for like a 3-year period. I think 22, 3 to 20 till now, 24, 5. This is the last year of that that work, and then maybe an opportunity in future. And Randy, if you show the next slide, in order to achieve those objectives, to financially in a financially sustainable manner, to create more adults with a post-secondary education, you need to expand student opportunity, improve the outcomes of our learners, people who come, no matter what they come from and what they're doing, what kind of credential they should not just arrive, but they should complete with a credential that has value. And to do that, we have to invest in our people, we have to invest in our infrastructure, we have to invest in our processes and improving them, and we have to remain stable financially. And so every year in this last few years, I work over the summer consulting with our presidents and with my cabinet, and with the extended management team, which is the groups of the system leadership group, including the faculty council. And we identify, what are the things we should be working on in those areas. And it's an important conversation, because I think what we've learned over 5 or 6 years is that where we're able to focus our energy, because working together takes time, and it turns out everybody does a day job, as well as working collectively on some of these system-wide efforts. So it's really important for us to focus on where we actually are able to deliver results.
And so we've learned that, and we try to really sort of focus down on the things that really make sense. So if you go to the next slide, I'm not going to go through all the items on the slide, but again, sort of expand on some of the issues there, or some of the priority areas there. Our work largely just continues. It is a continuation of the things that we have been doing. So it's not any major shift in the focus. I'll touch on a couple of highlights. We have spent a lot of time and a fair amount of money on a student information system that allows us to realize a vision where students at any one of our universities can take courses and participate in programs at any one of our other universities. And so now we're going to be figuring out how to actually use that infrastructure in order to do that. So, Randy, sorry, you've gotten to there and I have not. So that program and course sharing under expanded student opportunity is super important. And then there's this, you could put in my head, I kind of put together the two columns, improving learner outcomes and investing in people, because in effect, it's all about providing the scaffolding, the support for our colleagues, our employees, our fabulous employees who were so well represented this morning by the leaders of our collective bargaining units. The fabulous work that they do. It's important to scaffold them, because the work of the future, the university of the future, which is able not only to serve its traditional population super well, but also to move into and serve other students, we need to constantly upskill and reskill and invest in our people. This is a people business, and it doesn't matter whether it's conducted online or it's conducted face-to-face, it is still a people business. And we need to equip our colleagues so that they can work effectively. And it's so wonderful to hear from our colleagues, offers of continuing partnership in that, because it is essential. We will not succeed unless we invest in our folks. And this is not a conversation about terms and benefits, and I'm not bargaining from the table. This is about developing our folks, recruiting and retaining, developing the best possible. So the emphasis on high impact practices and investing in people is really identifying what works well to improve the outcomes that we're looking for, the financial stabilization of our institutions, and the continued ability to produce more graduates, and in fact, more credentialed adults in the interest of Pennsylvania. So what we've tended to do over the last few years, and this is where the focus has been important, is work together across our community to identify what we should be doing in any one of these key areas, which we know has a lot of potential for impact, documenting what we should do, and creating support and training materials and investing in those, being started with budget and management type stuff, kind of obvious given the urgency of financial issues. But we've moved on into the longer range student facing, and you'll see that kind of in the list. Investment in infrastructure is just something you need to do in a world where technology is changing rapidly, and we need to understand and integrate the best technologies and ensure that we know how to use it to good effect. So you'll see a lot of continuity in this list. And I look forward to hearing in a year's time about the progress against it. In the minute, or Randy, I know in the documents, we will ensure that you get, we typically do a much more elaborate chart, which shows what were our goals last year, what were our priorities last year, how did we do against those priorities? Pretty good story, actually. And then, and puts these sort of forward look in that text. So let me, one other comment I did want to make, and it's important to me to make it, is that we can't achieve these objectives unless our universities are inclusive of all Pennsylvanians. It's not possible to serve people, to get people into and through your universities unless they feel welcome and supported there. And we've had tremendous support in the legislature from any number of different quarters in ensuring that we're focused in that vital way. And I did want to call out one I did, and we've had so much support from across, both chambers and the governor's office and both parties, but I did want to acknowledge, from this chair, the work of Senator Haywood, who's constantly, reminding us that unless we are inclusive of all, we cannot possibly achieve our mission. And that is, I want to be clear, that is not on this slide because it is fundamental to everything we do. though I think, Katie, you had some remarks from the governor's office on this.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Chancellor. I have a statement from Governor that I would like to share along that same vein. Governor Shapiro would like to thank Senator Haywood and the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, as well as PASHE leadership for their work in producing the Enough Report. As we reflect on the experiences shared by students across the Commonwealth, it is crucial to remember that William Penn founded Pennsylvania on the principles of tolerance and respect. The challenges outlined in this report remind us that our work is far from over. We must ensure that all students feel safe, supported, and empowered to express themselves fully on PASHE campuses. It's encouraging to see the commitment from our leaders and institutions to cultivate an environment free from discrimination. Our campuses are vibrant meeting grounds for students, faculty, and staff from diverse backgrounds, races, and religions, fostering an environment where everyone can learn from one another. We recognize that diversity is one of our greatest strengths and enriches our academic community and makes us better neighbors, friends, and colleagues. As an administration, we are committed to doing what we can do to fully realize Penn's vision for our Commonwealth and would like to encourage all PASHE leaders to learn from this report and ensure that campuses are a place where all students, faculty, and staff feel welcome, respected, and valued. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We do have more business to get to, but as some of you might have heard, this is actually Dan's last board meeting as chancellor. You know, that must come as a surprise to some. And we actually have the same goal today as we did yesterday in our executive session, which is to embarrass him as much as possible, actually with praise, so that he will be left speechless, which has never happened in the history of the world with Dan. So we have invited folks from around the state again to send in messages. We heard a couple of them yesterday. And we've actually received, Dan, believe it or not, dozens of video messages. We're going to package them all up. I know you expected a car or at least a gold watch as a parting gift, but no, it's going to be a video. That's really all we can afford.
I was bestowed
And,
a doctorate of Celtic poetry.
Yes, that's true. That's true. We did. Yes, it's important to note, please, in the public meeting that last night, the PASHE system in Latin and in English, I want to note, awarded Dan an honorary degree, an honorary doctorate in
The
Celtic
fake honorary
poetry.
doctorate.
Fake honorary doctorate in Celtic poetry. We're so proud of you, Dan, really. Anyway, our next message is from someone who is familiar to all of us, beloved, because of his, among other things, his support for our efforts for 8 years. Randy, do you want to play the next video?
Hi, this is Tom Wolf, former governor, and I just want to congratulate you on a very successful time as chancellor of the Pennsylvania State System of Higher Education. You were a transformative chancellor. You did amazing things to confront the challenges that faced you and every other leader in higher education throughout the country and the world, really. You set a standard that was amazing, was innovative here in Pennsylvania, but also you set a standard for the country as a whole and for everybody in higher education. And I got to say that one of the highlights of my time as governor was our monthly meetings where we talked about what you were doing to transform higher education in Pennsylvania. You did a great job for the state system, and I think you did a great job for higher education in general. I just want to thank you for everything you did for Pennsylvania, and I want to thank you for everything you did for higher education. Thanks a lot, Dan. Congratulations, and good luck to you.
Right. Yeah, isn't that nice? And with that, we're actually going to move into committee sessions. All right, as we get back to business and do move into our committees, just a reminder that while only committee members may vote on action items, all board members are encouraged to ask questions if you have them. And I think with that, why don't we start with the University Success Committee? That is now being chaired by Dr. Quentin Bullock. And we are so fortunate to have you on our board, Dr. Bullock. As president of the Community College of Allegheny County, you know well the firsthand challenges of running institutions, public institutions of higher education. And I will again say you are the perfect choice to be leading this committee. So with that, let me turn the virtual gavel over to you.
Good morning and thank you, Madam Chair. And we'll start our presentation. As part of the broader continuous improvements of the board's policies and provide earlier visibility into university multi-year plans, in July 2024, the Board of Governors approved preliminary budgetary information. Universities have finalized their budgets for fiscal year 2024-25, reflecting the following updates from the July preliminary budgets: final appropriation allocation and tuition data, fall enrollment consensus data, and subsequent determinations of revenues and expenditures. A point of note, the budgetary information submitted by the universities in September 2024 continues to include assumptions related to collective bargaining units with contracts that will expire in the projection period. For units with ratified agreements, actual contractual changes are included within the personnel expenditures. In accordance with Act 188 of 1982 and Board Policy 1993-03-A, budgetary reporting and review, the board will provide approval of the final operating budgets of FY 2024 and 25. With that said, I move that the board approves the fiscal year 2024 final annual operating budgets for state system universities and the Office of the Chancellor reflected in Attachment 1.
Reminder, Toya will do a quick roll call of the committee, and then you can do your committee members can cast your vote on that motion.
Chair Quentin Bullock,
Present.
Governor Neil Weaver,
Here.
Governor Rich Caruso,
Here.
Governor Brandon Dance, Governor William Gindelsberger, Katie Merritt,
Here.
Representative Brad Roy,
Here.
Governor Ali Sina Sharifi,
Here.
President Charles Patterson.
Now, Chairman Bullock, you can just ask for a vote of the committee.
I ask that we move all those who approve the fiscal year 2024 final annual operating budgets of the state system universities and the Office of the Chancellor reflected in Attachment 1 indicate, all those in favor indicate by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
None here.
The motion passed as presented. We now go to the 2024 capital spending plan and capital budget authorization request. For a Commonwealth funded capital project to start design and construction, funding must be allocated by the capital spending plan, and the project must have authorization from the General Assembly in a capital bill. The spending plan is a rolling 5-year wherein the Board of Governors approves the execution of projects in the first year of the plan and tentatively approves the remaining 4 years, subject to annual reviews and updates. Projects not currently authorized by the General Assembly must be submitted for approval in the next capital bill. The General Assembly authorization in the capital bill does not guarantee project funding. Capital spending plan. Earlier this year, the universities provided input for the capital spending plan in accordance with policy 2000-02-A, capital facilities planning, programming, and funding, and the procedures in volume 4 of the State System Facilities Manual. Projects submitted were evaluated, prioritized, and compiled into the spending plan considering the following elements: university priority, prior year position in the spending plan, academic benefit, space, ADA, safety, and code compliance deficiencies, new revenue or matching funds potential, cost savings potential, and impact on the deferred maintenance backlog. Capital authorization bill. Most projects in this spending plan were previously authorized by the General Assembly in capital itemization acts. Projects that may need authorization upon board approval will be submitted in the next itemization act. With that said, I'm prepared to move that the board approve the fiscal year 2024-25 capital spending plan.
Second.
It's been properly seconded. Are there any questions? No questions. All those in favor of the board approving this act indicate by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion's passed as presented. Our next item is fiscal year 2025-26 educational and general appropriation requests. As part of the preparation of the governor's budget, each year the state system prepares an appropriation required submitted to the Pennsylvania Department of Education for incorporation into the governor's proposed budget. Additionally, in accordance with Act 188, the board may also submit its budget recommendations and findings to the General Assembly subsequent to the submission of the governor's budget to the General Assembly. These are transmitted as part of the system's overall accountability and transparency framework and publicly available upon transmission. The appropriation request supports the university's educational and general fund activities, which include the personal and operating expenses for the academic functions within the universities. For fiscal year 24-25, the $620,775,000 appropriation compromises approximately 36% of the revenue supporting these functions. The remaining revenue funding educational and general fund activities come primarily from student tuition and fees. In development of the appropriation request, the system considers the overall financial sustainability of its universities, the need to continue to operate in alignment with the Board of Governors' sustainability objectives, and the need to maintain student affordability, given the revenue sources for these functions. The board has been able to freeze tuition since 2018 to help the students and families we serve. The appropriation request presented represents the objective of continuing the focus of student affordability while acknowledging the increasing costs due to current and projected inflation. With that presented, I'd like to move that the board approves.
Mr. Chair, sorry, the Chancellor just had a quick comment before your motion.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mr. Vice Chair. I just wanted to present as you see in the motion, the request of XXX. I guess it's up to me to introduce my thinking on the XXX, which I can do briefly. We've been very successful in the past, and I think it's the right thing to do, to look at our inflationary costs and to try to think about what it would take in developing our appropriations request, what it would take in terms of investment from the state to allow us to meet those costs without imposing a further burden on our students. So the math works out that a 6.5% increase in state appropriation, which is in the order of $60.1 million. Did I get that wrong? I meant 40.3. I was thinking 60.1 because
Math
I
is.
think 60.1 is the age at which I can start drawing on my retirement, whatever it was.
Math.
So whatever Sharon said, 40.3 is the number that allows us to do that. I did want to remind again, mostly for board members who are new, that if you look at the annual rate of inflation, according to today's news, it's now down to about 2.4 or 2.5%. 6.5% sounds like a lot. Like, what's that about? And the reason is that the state picks up about 32 or 33% of our total annual revenues, and the rest is student tuition. And so, if the state is going to cover the cost of inflation of a tuition increase, it will be higher than the rate of inflation for that reason. So that is the math, and that is the recommendation that I propose to you, and leave it there. Take any questions, obviously.
Dr. Bullock, can I just ask a question? Well, you've called for discussion, I think, anyway, right?
Yes.
Motion.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I certainly have complete faith in Sharon and her team, which calculates this down to the nickel. I just would want to make a comment if, as we proceed, we're making this request now, and we don't know what's going to happen by the time the governor proposes his budget. And then, of course, when the General Assembly starts to debate it during the budget process, right? So there's a long time between now, barely the middle of October, and when a budget is going to get passed. And we never know what could happen. And of course, I think only about opportunities that might happen, not on the other side of it. So while it's understood that once we pass this allocation request, we would have to come back to the board if we were to change it. I just sort of want to more or less put it on record or get it in the minutes or whatever, that we would consider doing it if the circumstances were such that it was deemed appropriate. So, for example, opportunities for more investment in something, a particular initiative or what have you. And I say that particularly in view of this new State Board of Higher Education, because we're just, changing the framework of public higher education in the Commonwealth. But it's too soon to know exactly what that means. So I just want to, all I'm saying is, I just want to make that note of potential flexibility. All understanding anything would have to come back to the board for an actual vote once we take the action today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? If not, the motion on the floor is to approve fiscal year 25-26 E&G appropriations request of $40.3 million. All those in favor indicate by.
Hold on.
Just one correction on the motion, Mr. Chair.
0.5% increase or 40 point, which equals 40.3.
Yeah, so say 6.5% increase, which equals 40.3.
Total of 661.1.
Say it one more time, please.
6.5% increase is a total of
661.1 million.
Got it. Thank you. To correct my motion, the board approves the fiscal year 2025 E&G appropriation request of 6.5% increase totaling 661 million. All those in support indicate by aye.
Hold on. It's 661.1.
Oh, 0.1.
Second as amended.
Thank you.
Received a second on this end. Yep.
All those in favor indicate by indicating aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
None on this end, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The motion passed as presented. Thank you. That concludes the University Success Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bullock. Next, we'll turn to Sam Smith, Chair of the Governance and Leadership Committee, to moderate his committee's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Toya, will you please take roll of the Governance and Leadership Committee?
Yes, Committee Chair. Sam Smith,
Here.
Governor David Mazer,
Here.
Governor Abigail Hancox. Here. Senator Judith Schwenk. Cynthia Shapira.
Here.
Governor Robert Trainum.
He's here. He just stepped out of the room.
Thank you. President Karen Riley.
Here.
Completes the roll call.
And Tess Offord is on for Senator Schwank.
Thank you.
Thank you, Toya. Before we begin, I wanted to welcome Dr. Robert Trainum, who's the newest member of our committee, and of course, he's a relatively new member of the Board of Governors. We appreciate you as a fellow trustee at the COT level of this operation. He brings a great deal of experience and local university perspective to the committee, and we appreciate that. So welcome, Robert. The business before the committee today is somewhat simple, but it's an important function as we consider an appointment of a student trustee for Kutztown University. Providing the students' voice on councils of trustees is an important role for this board. Because there are students on our councils, we can ensure that our university leaders always have access to the students' perspective when making decisions. Of course, in this particular case, given that this involves Kutztown, it'll be kind of extra important, given that they will be conducting a presidential search, or that it's actually underway. So with that, let me direct your attention to the application materials for Peyton Menser from Kutztown University. And I would ask President Hawkinson to please provide some additional background and information about Peyton.
Thank you. Well, Peyton has served as Kutztown University's student trustee for the past year, representing the student body exceptionally well in many Council of Trustees related matters. She has been fully engaged in countless activities. She successfully graduated last May with her undergraduate degree. I would like to endorse and request her reappointment as student trustee for the next 2 years as she continues with her graduate program studies at Kutztown University. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, President Hawkinson. May I have a motion that recommends the board appoint Peyton Menser to the Kutztown University Council of Trustees?
So moved.
Moved and seconded.
Second.
Thank you, Abby. Is there any discussion from the committee or questions or concerns from other members of the Board of Governors? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is adopted. Randy?
Peyton is there.
Peyton? Welcome back to the Council of Trustees at Kutztown.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be back.
You have anything else you'd like to share?
Sorry. I
We're
didn't
waiting
hear
for some words of wisdom
my
from
thing
you.
is cutting out. It's cutting out a bit, so I can't hear you very much. But I just wanted to say that last year when I was in this position, getting appointed to the Council of Trustees, I feel like my thank you to those involved was not as sincere as it is this time, because I've now had the opportunity to work with the Council of Trustees for a year, and President Hawkinson for an entire year. So my sincerest thank you to President Hawkinson and the Council of Trustees for making it such a welcoming environment, and including me in all the discussion that we have. I've certainly grown as a leader. I certainly saw so much potential in myself and our state system yesterday when I visited the Capitol with the other student trustees. And it's just a real great honor to be on the Council of Trustees again for another year.
Thank you, Peyton. We appreciate that very much. I believe we have no other business before the committee. So, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now we're back in full board session to take up the committee actions that were previously discussed. Unless anyone would like to have them divided up or take one, any particular one out, we are going to vote on them all in one motion. So those actions, again, as listed in our board book, include the appointment of a student trustee, the approval of the budget, the approval of the capital plan, and the approval of the appropriations request. Does any board member wish to divide that motion?
No hands on Zoom.
Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve today's committee actions?
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
No hands on Zoom.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is for policy updates, and we will hear from Dr. Denise Pearson regarding policy updates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Today, what I have for you is I have 5 policies that I'm going to bring before the board. But before I bring them to your attention, I'd just like to share with the board that these are the last policies we will be bringing forward to you under Dan's administration. He stepped out, but I want everyone to know that we've been able to do this work because of his support and acknowledgement of the importance of reviewing all of our policies through a DEI lens. The 5 policies that we're bringing forth are on pages 51 through 56 in your materials packet. And the first one is the faculty council policy. And this one had substantive changes in the area of its purpose and its scope, but it also, I think, made a very important recommendation underneath the composition and structure, similar to the following policies that I'm going to bring forward. And it has to do with making sure that all of our policies align with our mission, vision, and values. If you remember, the Board of Governors adopted a statement of affirmation back in 2021. And as we went through our policies, we saw that there was an opportunity to remind all of our stakeholders that our policy should align with our mission, vision, and values. So that's what was set forth in that policy recommended. The same thing with policy 2003, conferral of emeritus status. Again, understanding the importance and the weight that these emeritized status carry, we thought it would be important underneath the criteria for awarding them to make sure that the person demonstrates support for the state system and its university mission, vision, and values. Very similar, if you go to policy 1984, honorary degrees. If you look underneath the policy and procedures, the policy custodians thought it was important for these decisions to be made in accordance with the state system and its university's mission, vision, and values. The next policy was the process for recommending presidential appointments. And again, underneath the policy itself, the policy custodians felt that it was important that these decisions be made in support of the mission, vision, values of the university and the state system. Next, we had the policy 1983, appointing interim and acting chief executive officers. And here, similar to the other policies, but this one showed up underneath the purpose. We thought it was, the policy custodians recommended that the purpose of this policy clearly stated the need to be consistent with the state system's mission, vision, and values. So those are the policies that we're bringing forward now for your consideration. But before I conclude my report, I'd like to say at this point, the Policy Review Committee has reviewed all board policies, and we have presented those which policy custodians recommended for change. There are a few outstanding policies that are still being considered by respective policy custodians, and they'll come to you at a later date along with a comprehensive report of all of the policies that were reviewed, the total number of policy changes that were recommended, and the total number of amendments that were made to policies by the Board of Governors. So that concludes my presentation of the 5 policies that we bring to you. Recommended amendment. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I just want to make sure that the honorary degree that we conferred upon Dan last night.
Fake honorary degree.
meets, you know,
It's aligned with our mission.
it is a lot. Okay, fine. All right. Great. As I was worried for a minute, we might have to rescind it and that would be awkward. Okay.
It's a done deal.
No questions on Zoom.
Oh, all right. Very good. So I do need a motion that the board approves amendments to policies as shown in item 12B of the board materials. Thank you. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
None on Zoom.
Okay, thank you very much. The motion carries. The next item of business is the appointment of an interim chancellor. As you may know, Dan's last day with the system is tomorrow. And so we must consider the appointment of an interim chancellor to take over when Dan completes his tenure. I believe that will be at 5:02 p.m. You're done at 5:01 p.m. And so to become effective at 5:02 p.m. tomorrow. Okay. Very seriously, we are so fortunate that Dr. Chris Fiorentino, who has just retired from the presidency at Westchester University, has not yet flown to some tropical island without a forwarding address. He has instead agreed to serve as our interim chancellor while we conduct our national search. I shared this information with all of you in August when I announced my intention to nominate him for the role of interim chancellor. And so without further ado, I move that the board approves the appointment of Dr. Christopher Fiorentino as interim chancellor effective October 11th, 2024, and authorizes the chair to execute the necessary documents. I have a second.
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 Anybody can second that. All right. Is there any discussion?
None.
Okay, no discussion. Very good. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
There any opposed?
None.
Terrific. I'm proud and pleased to announce that the motion has carried. And I'm just going to lead a round of applause. There's a well-known saying in my religion that goes something like, may we go from strength to strength. And I think that this is a demonstration of that today. Chris, I would invite you to say a few words.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And it's truly an honor to be asked to serve in this role. I wanted to note that President Anderson yesterday mentioned that he and President Bernofsky had just celebrated their 100th day. That means I managed to be out for 100 days. And then they pulled me back in. But I'm truly honored. I look forward to working with the Board of Governors, with the governor and his team, members of the legislature, presidents and other campus leaders, our union leaders, staff in the chancellor's office, and probably a bunch of other people who I don't even know about yet. So thank you all very much. I look forward to tackling the job and moving the agenda forward as we search for a new chancellor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, and officially welcome. All right. At this point, I think I'm going to pause and call on Tina to make some remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to express my appreciation
for the public comment from faculty and alumni and sharing their stories and information. Sharing your stories in public is a brave act, and thank you for that willingness. As Dr. Craven shared, 7% of students identify as having a disability today. This is only going to increase as data suggests more K-12 students are being diagnosed with mental health issues as we understand more about the physical and mental impacts of the pandemic. The students of tomorrow will increasingly need accommodations, but this is not only the future of our students, but our faculty and staff of the future. The information they brought here today directly aligns with systems' priority to invest in people and inclusive hiring, which should include faculty and staff and students with disabilities. I also want to express appreciation for Katie Merrick's comments on behalf of the governor. I would also like to acknowledge that this is the work of the Faculty Council because we as faculty interact with the students. It is never going to be the experience of a student that they don't interact with multiple faculty members. And so as such, we are partnering with the Chief Diversity Officer System Leadership Group to work together in response to Senator Haywood's report. We will be meeting today at 1 o'clock. I invite any of you to join us in this important work. And finally, thanks to Dan for making PASHE and the Board of Governors more inclusive of the faculty voice and perspectives. We all are doing amazing work for the Commonwealth, and we definitely appreciate your leadership in this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate those remarks. Let me now turn to our Chancellor, Dan Greenstein, for remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have deliberately not thought very much about this moment because I've become so accustomed to the role, but more importantly, so enamored of the people that I get to work with on a day-to-day basis. As a consequence, my remarks are scripted. That's unusual for me, as you know. I felt and Randy also is requiring me to create one more blog post, so it serves double purpose. So after 6 years as chancellor, I remain in awe of this system and its universities, the power it has as an engine of social mobility and workforce development for all of Pennsylvania, and its potential continuing to advance its historical mission against even the toughest headwinds. In so many ways, our state-owned universities have changed little since I first visited them in the fall of 2018. They are today, and maybe I've changed, gotten shorter. They are today as they were then. Each is an amazing and a beautiful in distinctive ways and populated with incredible people, students who are excited to engage and learn and grow, faculty and staff who are devoted to the mission, damn good at what they do. And as we heard this morning, and a particular shout out to Rita and her colleagues in Scupa in the worst of years, not because of anything we did, but because of the debacle in Washington. Your colleagues, can I say, kicked ass, but I mean the fact that our enrollments are stable for the first time. Yet in so many ways, they have changed our universities profoundly. And if you need evidence, I would just urge you to look at the usual input and output numbers. System enrollments having slid for more than a decade are stable. Student retention and graduation rates have improved, and having had the honor of never once recommending a tuition increase, our net price of attendance is about 25% lower than it was in 2018 if you do it in inflation adjusted dollars. And that's thanks to you, the Board of Governors, for your courage, and to 2 governors and several sessions of the General Assembly for their support. Changes are also apparent as universities respond to Pennsylvania's urgent needs for the adult population with the skills and abilities to sustain our Commonwealth's economic competitiveness, health, and well-being. So let's not forget, because I only repeated it a little while ago, that 60% of today's jobs require someone in them with some post-secondary education that only 51% of adults have. And so what are universities doing about that as the state's owned universities? They're opening their doors to new groups of students. They're reaching well beyond the traditional ones we have served so well for so long. We see growth in community college transfer. and in degree completion programs that are targeting the million-plus Pennsylvanians who once attended college but didn't complete their degree. In non-degree credentials that take months, not years, enabling people to reskill and upskill and improve their competitiveness in a changing world of work. And in online programs that are targeting or serving student groups, including those who don't have the ability, the interest to participate in our traditional face-to-face and residential education. The system has also changed. Universities work closely together with servant leadership from the system office to increase their efficiency, improve service quality, and learn more rapidly how to evolve to meet the changing needs of our students. They don't just share commonly required back office functions, that's pretty typical these days. They're now beginning to share front office, notably programs and courses that expand student opportunity, and it's a game changer. Imagine what we can do for Pennsylvanians when a student anywhere in the system can access instruction anywhere else in the system. Working together, PASH universities ensure that programs respond to employee, student, and demographic demand, that student support is targeted so that more people get into and through their education and integrate jobs and careers. And faculty and staff are supported in adopting high-impact practices that enable them to perform at the highest level. PASH's transformation story over the past 6 years, documented at digreenstein.com, demonstrates that higher education's future is shaped, but it's not determined by political, demographic, technological, and other sectoral trends that are beyond its control. It shows that the choices that people make really matter. At PASHI, it's fair to say, yes, we can. Actually, it's fair to say, yes, we do. PASHI's transformation story also suggests that higher education can tackle the most difficult and complex challenges, even the seemingly intractable ones. I'm often asked, what is the most important thing you learned at PASHI? And I think my answer is that the obstacles that are typically thrown in the way of necessary change, we can't do this because that they're mirages. Where necessary reforms are constrained by policy, we have changed the policy. Where they're impeded by employment capability, we invest in our people and their professional development. Where they're constrained by law, we have changed the law. So what, if anything, will or could stand in the way of PASHI's continuing its progress? So as a trained historian and now Celtic poet, I'm loath to make predictions, but if I had to, I'd say that our greatest challenge is inertia, coupled with the absence of any collective sense of urgency. Complacent. It doesn't need to be that way. Remember, although most of us don't want to, March 2020, when the global pandemic taught us that universities offering face-to-face and residential education are actually designed to spread lethal airborne disease. Who knew? Social distancing, it turns out, is orthogonal to their operating model. And so in a matter of weeks, our faculty and our staff, they reimagined and they retooled our operating model at every level of the organization. And we succeeded in being able to continue our mission, engaging with our students and turning out graduates. What the general public saw was just the tip of that iceberg, students learning remotely via synchronous web-based applications. Could have put Zoom, but I didn't want to appear to be promoting particular technology. Below the waterline, and everybody in this room knows it, was a comprehensive, largely invisible recrafting the entire policy, operational, contractual, and regulatory environments under which we operate. Still, that experience shows us what we can do when we have a collective sense of urgency. And so I wonder, and I guess I leave you with this wondering, can we achieve a similarly transformational level of urgency without the threat of a global pandemic? I hope so. Why do I hope so? because the need for continuing transformation in higher education is urgent. The tsunami of disruptive change that's associated with artificial intelligence is here. Its headwaters are crashing down on our shores. It will change everything that we do. Our business model is still broken. Sure, PASH's tremendous and very difficult work on financial stabilization has bought us a little time, but it has not bought us salvation. In what time that we have, our universities will choose what students they serve, and then they will equip themselves accordingly, retooling aggressively if they decide to serve a more comprehensive array of students, because higher education is not a water hose. It's a highly personalized endeavor, and one student is nothing like the next. Or they will downsize significantly if they remain primarily focused on and serving traditional students. The partnership with our owners, the state, has been strengthened. And like any partnership, it requires constant nurturing, care, and attention. But unlike many partnerships, it is susceptible to economic cycles, suggesting that as we continue to reimagine ourselves, we do so in ways that protect us when our partner finds itself in difficult circumstances. And competition with other universities and colleges, competition over the same students, increases as they aggressively seek to enroll the same students that we're pursuing. And guess what? They are choosing from the same small set of strategic options that we are to get those students. And the public trust in higher education, I'd like to say outside Pennsylvania, it's in free fall. Time is not our friend as we address these challenges. You look across the national landscape, it is clear that the swift and the agile in higher education, they will effectively address these issues. By so doing, they will win the race to sustaining ground while better serving their students and communities. Others will wither. Some of them will be consumed, some will disappear, and sadly, many will be left as shadows of their former selves lurching through crises against a backdrop of constant and severe recession management. Sure, legacy, history, a misplaced sense of entitlement, political connectivity, that may help a few, but probably not very much, and probably not for very long. And the stakes in this race, they could not be higher. I fear that it is possible that in running it over the next few years, U.S. higher education will double down on what it has become so damn good at: reifying privilege and widening social inequality. While the arc of history is tilted in that direction, we have shown here that we can bend it. The past doesn't need to be prologue. The future is the cumulative effect of individual choices and choices of consequence. PASH's transformation story to date confirms that change is possible, and that fuels and sustains my irrepressible optimism. Finally, thank you for the opportunity of a lifetime. It has been a privilege, an honor, and a pleasure to work with and learn from all of you, board members, system office, university colleagues, elected officials, our employees, our collective bargaining units, and above all, our students. This is a tremendous place. It is a jewel in the crown of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I will follow its progress from afar. Well, not too far. I'm just down the street in Old Uptown. Next to the Little Amps, if you want to come for coffee. Chris, best of luck. And as ever, you have a whole lot to do. Go onwards. And
Thank you, Dan. Your words are at the same time sobering and inspiring. And I'll look forward to seeing them reprinted in the SHIO newsletter not long from now.
digreenstein.com.
Yeah, I don't know, Inside Higher Ed might pick it up as well. But no, seriously, thank you. As always, your insights and your thoughts are provoking and important, and really touch everything that we do on a practical level, but also on a visionary level. So it's a rare gift that you have. And this is not the end of this meeting either. Before we move to our final act of business for the day, I do want to share one final message of thanks. Andy?
I really appreciate the relationship we were able to build during my time on the board and how you contributed to my experience within PASHI as a student. I wish you nothing but the best and hope everything goes well.
You shined a light on the critical function faculty hold in a system that spans a beautiful and diverse state dedicated to giving access to quality higher education to all the Commonwealth's people. The mission of PASHI is not one that you will leave behind. We know that you will continue to make an impact on higher education nationally to make higher education accessible for all in a way that leads to success in life.
On behalf of PACT, thank you for your passion and dedication as you led the system into the next phase of sustainability.
Your advocacy didn't just elevate the conversation, it gave it a spotlight and a megaphone.
I appreciate that you always understood that we were fighting for the same goal, a better higher education for every student here in Pennsylvania.
But I really especially want to say thank you for being someone who knew that we had to make changes, that we couldn't maintain the status quo.
Your vision, your passion, your brilliance have all made us a better institution. And again, thank you.
That was great. Thank you, Randy, so much. That was just really wonderful. So I think that we have a few more people who would like to make some comments. Let me call on Katie on behalf of Governor Shapiro.
Yeah, and Chairwoman and Chancellor, if you could join her at the podium and just stay there for the next, I don't know, hour or two.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go up there for the
We have boxed
duration.
lunches, so it won't be that long, I suppose. And pardon the Zumba class that has apparently started upstairs. We'll just keep going. There you go. You're good.
Better? Okay,
Yeah.
great, wonderful. Thank you very much. I am here on behalf of Governor Shapiro and very glad to present Dan with a letter from the governor thanking him for all of his work over his tenure at PASHI. And I will read it. It is my honor to join your family, friends, and colleagues to recognize you for your outstanding service to our Commonwealth. The Pennsylvania state system of higher education has long served as a cornerstone of accessible, high-quality higher education for students across the Commonwealth that supports their academic and professional development. Over the past 6 years, you have led PASHI with dedication, vision, and a steadfast commitment to ensuring that the system remains both financially viable and academically strong. Under your leadership, PASHI maintained keeping tuition flat throughout your entire tenure, easing the financial burden on students and their families while ensuring that higher education remained within reach for all Pennsylvanians. You face challenges of managing the complex fiscal realities of higher education with courage and foresight, and improved the long-term financial sustainability of the system and the universities it serves. You have guided the system through transformative initiatives designed to strengthen the academic integrity of the universities, ensuring that they continue to provide high-quality higher education for the future generations to come. Your contributions have left an incredible mark on PASHE, which has enhanced its ability to adapt, grow, and thrive in the face of challenging educational and financial landscapes. On behalf of all Pennsylvanians, I am honored to recognize and commend you for your outstanding service and unwavering commitment to the success of the Pennsylvania state system of higher education. Your legacy of leadership, integrity, and vision will be felt for many years to come. Thank you very much, Chancellor.
All right, Dan, just stay here. We have a couple more proclamations to read, but first I want to call on our student governors to say a few words.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alisina Sharifi. It's great to be here. I think it's the first time I'm talking in public. I have just been appointed as well, so I'm brand new, and I'm sad that I'm, leaving. We're leaving Chancellor Greenstein. I mean, more things to learn, but I just wanted to thank on behalf of all the students, all the faculty and staff of the PASHE system. All of us, we do know that there are different types of leaders, different types of people who manage systems. And one of the greatest types is the servant leader that you actually mentioned. And when you were mentioning, I was just thinking in my head, yeah, the name Dan Greenstein comes to my mind every time you mentioned servant leader. And we do want to thank you. I do want to say that this is not the first time I'm seeing Chancellor. I met him at Shippensburg University back in 2022, 2023, during the inauguration of our president, Dr. Patterson. So we have had this in-person relationship with the Chancellor, and that means a lot to us as students. And I would like to give the floor is yours if you want to talk on behalf of the other portion of students, although thank you very much. Thank you for your service, and we wish you best of luck. Thank you very much. And we look forward to working with you, Mr. Fiorentino. Thank you.
Well, I don't know that I can speak to the other thousands of students within our PASHE system, but I feel like we can say on behalf of all PASHE students, thank you to Chancellor Greenstein for his outstanding service to the student body at all PASHE campuses. I think as student governors, we have all learned so much from Chancellor Greenstein and that his legacy will live on, and we will continue to learn from Dr. Fiorentino and the Chancellor that comes after as well. We wish on behalf of the students all the best to Chancellor Greenstein. Thank you for your service.
I think all have been said already. So, we just want to thank you, Chancellor Greenstein, for all the work that you've done. It's been so transformative, and the initiative for freezing tuition has been so great, especially on me personally. So thank you. And congratulations to Dr. Fiorentino. I'll get it. We really congratulate you and thank you so much for coming out and helping us students and faculty and staff in order to, build a foundation for the PASHE system. So definitely want to thank you and the next chancellor that we have. Thank you all.
All right, may I please call on His Honor Representative Brad Roy. Oh, and Representative Briggs. It's bipartisan. It's wonderful.
Okay, well, hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Representative Briggs and I have both been on the board for several years, and it's been a pleasure to work with Dan this whole time. And there's not really that many chancellors in the United States that can say they didn't raise tuition the whole time they were there doing it. And I just think it's so important for the students. The whole time I've been in the legislature, I have wanted this system to freeze tuition, to make college more affordable. And it's just really nice that that's been done. And under Dan's leadership, the system has a lot better standing in the Capitol building. In years past, a lot of people didn't really know that much about the system. Most legislators had never met a chancellor. There's just a lot of, people didn't really. Thanks, Dan. No, but Dan has been a great ambassador for the system to the legislature. And I think the legislature is very confident in the direction the system is going under Dan's leadership. So we wish him luck, but we do have a citation from the House. And it has a lot of the same information that's already been talked about. So I'm not going to read the citation. But it's my honor, along with Representative Briggs, and then Representative Patty Kim is Dan's actual legislator. He lives in her district. She wasn't able to be here today because she had a prior commitment, but she wishes Dan well also. And Representative Briggs, do you want to?
Just real quick.
Yeah, please.
I can't pass up a mic. And last time, I think Sam turned off my mic once on the floor. So Dan, I just want to thank you for all you did as an alum of the system and just a fighter for public education. You taught me so much, and I want to thank you for your commitment and contributions to Pennsylvania. You made us a better system, and I know we have a lot more to do, but you set us on a great path. So thank you.
Yes.
I was going to say yesterday when Senator Argyle and Schwank gave me a resolution from the Senate that I wanted to wait to today. It's just to thank these House representatives as well, and just to say that the quality of discourse in the legislature generally and in the state and the administration is exceptionally high in Pennsylvania. The understanding of higher education and its role and its purpose and its importance of public higher education is phenomenal, and it's been an honor to work with you and your colleagues through six years. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I would say to that ditto. Totally agree. Is this the resolution? now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, naturally, the Board of Governors has a proclamation for you as well in the form of a resolution, which I do believe we have to vote on, right? I think. But it's quite beautiful, and either Dan's going to hold it or we're going to put it. Okay, fine. But you don't have to. I'll read from here. Yes, exactly. And our resolution reads as follows. Whereas Dr. Dan Greenstein began his service as Chancellor of Pennsylvania's State System of Higher Education in September 2018, and whereas he immediately put into action PASHE's system redesign that would ultimately improve our standing with the legislature, increase state investment, stabilize enrollments, and create greater financial sustainability, all while building a culture of systemness. And whereas Dan led the system through these and many more transformational efforts while navigating a global pandemic that required every part of the system to change how it does business. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Governors proudly recognizes the humility, transparency, empathy, integrity, and good humor that defines Dr. Dan Greenstein's leadership. And be it further resolved that the board hereby names Dan Greenstein Chancellor Emeritus in appreciation for his lasting contributions to the state system, its universities, and the students they serve. And by voice acclamation, I move approval of this resolution. And that means everybody in the room, whether or not you're on the board. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And Dan, I invite you once again to say a few words.
One more time. I didn't actually prepare remarks for this section, but so I'll just say again, thank you very much. Keep up the great work, and I'm going to go change my LinkedIn page.
And emeritus, right? Okay, so close this out for the record. I want to report that the board met in executive session yesterday from 1:30 PM until 3 PM to discuss personnel and legal matters. And before we adjourn, I ask if there are any other matters to come before the board.